Guys, I have a bit of a conundrum, and it's about the Fractal Mood. And the conundrum is, I don't know how to love the Fractal Mood because I want to love it. But is it a case that I would use? Let's find out. We're gonna take a really close look at this new case from Fractal, and I'm gonna let you guys know if it's worth your hard-earned money. But before that, here's a word from today's video sponsor. Take it away, Claire. Oh, haven't said that one in 2 weeks either.
This video is brought to you by VIPSCDKey.com. Have you ever installed Windows 11 only to see the watermark of death? You don't need to fork out a couple of $100s for a key. You can grab one from today's video sponsor, from VIPSCDKey.com for 1/10 of the price. You can use our code GEAR to get 30% off for this month only. How good is that? That takes that already cheap Windows 11 key and makes it even cheaper. It's easy as placing your order. Bingo bango. You've got your new key on your orders page. You chuck that key into the activation screen and you're good to go. No more watermark of death. Use code GEAR to get 30% off for this month only. Link in the description. On with the video. Back to you, Nick.
Let's start off with panel removal on the Fractal Mood. The way to get in is through the back of the case. We need to spin it around, and you'll notice there is this big panel on the back here. Now, you need to be careful with this because yeah, it's kind of low, but using one finger can usually allow you to pull the bottom of the panel out and then pull it away from the case. The reason why I say you need to be careful is when I was playing with this at Computex, I kind of jammed my finger in there and kind of hurt it a little bit, but yeah, you know, is what it is. Right, now, to pull the top of the case off is where this gets a little bit more interesting. At Computex, I mentioned that there wasn't any screws in the bottom here to slide the top shell of the case off, but because this is a retail version, we need to remove these 2 screws at the bottom of the case so we can unlock the rest of the internals of the Fractal Mood. And then what you'll want to do is grab the top shell and slide it directly up. Do not pass go, do not collect $200, just go straight up. And then you can pull that away from the case. There's an included fan and radiator bracket, and to remove that, there's 2 screws. There's 2 at the top, and we can just loosen those and pull it towards you, and then give it a little bit of a jiggle and pull it away from the case. There's an optional piece to remove as well, and it's this panel here. This is a support beam, and the reason why you'd want to loosen this is if you wanted to put in a bigger GPU, you can remove the 4 screws here. A whole support brace gets pulled away from the case, but because I'm not going to be removing that because of the GPU that I'm using when we build in it, yeah, that's just not going to come out now, but it is removable, which is nice. For dust filtration, there is a single magnetic dust filter on the rear panel, which you can pull away. The way to do this is basically you lift up the corner. It has a little lip on the edge of the panel to hold the thing into place so it doesn't fly around when they're shipping it. For SSD and hard disk support, you have this single 3.5-inch sled that is mounted to the fan bracket. Now, if you're wanting to use fans, you have to not use this drive, essentially. We do have other drive mounts though, so all is not lost. This is also removable with 4 screws. I'll just show you how to remove this really quickly so you guys can get an idea of how this works. In the box for the Mood, there's 2 more additional panels that can be used to install drives. So first of all, we've got this one that goes onto the side. This is very easy to install. You kind of put the edge of it in the holes, and then you push it, and then you pop it into the case, and then you've got that 2.5-inch SSD mount there. However, if you're wanting to do another drive, this is where it gets a little bit strange. For the other 2.5-inch SSD mount, you'll need to remove the top fan to install this into place. I would probably avoid using this if possible because you're going to want to have that huge 180mm fan up top for exhaust. There's a single included 180mm PWM fan, and it's also 38mm thick. So this is a stonkin' chonkin' exhaust fan that sits on top of the Mood. Does it work? We'll find out later in the video. The top fan is also fully PWM as well, so it's a 4-pin cable. Surprisingly, in the Fractal Mood, it supports up to a 280mm liquid cooler. Quite obviously, it will also support 240mm liquid coolers, two 120mm fans, and two 140mm fans. As for power supply support in the Fractal Mood, it only supports SFX and SFXL power supplies. The maximum supported power supply length is 130mm. Anything bigger, you're just not going to be able to stick it in and make it fit. This is an SFXL power supply, and this is how I would recommend installing it when you're building with the Fractal Mood. Behind your graphics card when you install it is where the intake for the power supply should be. This is because if you use flow-through cards, kind of like the NVIDIA Founders cards, which we'll be using in this build, this is the perfect spot for it. As well as that, it's got a built-in IEC cable for power pass-through. It's a right-angled cable. Essentially, this just plugs into your power supply. It runs through the case, and the input for power is on the bottom of the case in this very handy little hidden location. This is one of the better ways that I've seen the power implemented for these small form factor cases. It just looks really sleek. That's the whole point of the Fractal Mood though. Furniture, not computer. There are dozens of tie down points around the edge of the frame. They've also got them on the motherboard tray, dotted all around the place. And essentially there's cable management tie down points all over the inside of the case. The reason why they want to do something like this and kind of go over the top is because you slide the shell of the case back over the top. You don't want there to be any type of interference as you're sliding that back down over the top. For motherboard support, the Fractal Mood supports ITX motherboards, which is an interesting thing because I have a lot to say about this because the I/O faces down, and from a lot of these type of chimney cases we've seen in the past, the I/O being at the bottom has been quite terrible and you'd need to use special cables or right angled display cables, but that's not going to be the case with the Fractal Mood. They've given more than enough space to be able to plug stuff in and get stuff done. Almost said the other swear word, but yes. You guys understand what I'm trying to say, right? Now, while we're on the topic of this is something you guys are going to ask about. Fractal is claiming you can do a 110mm air cooler in here, which is more than plausible. I did test a cooler that was much bigger than this before filming, which was the new Noctua NHD12L, I think, and that cooler's around 132mm, so that's too big. I don't have anything on hand that will fit in here nicely. However, they're saying that with a little bit of reconfiguration inside, you can do up to 123mm, which I would love to try, but I don't have a cooler at that height, unfortunately, so we're going to be liquid cooling this build. But it is something interesting that we might come back to shortly when I get my hands on an air cooler that will fit in here, because I personally want to know what the thermals are like when this thing is air cooled. Let us know if that's something you want to see in the comments down there. That's where the comments are. They're like in the thing down there. Also, you see that button that says subscribe? Just hit that while you're there too, right? The bit you've been waiting for is maximum GPU length. So for the Fractal Mood, the maximum length is 325mm. The interesting thing about this is, although it only looks like it can support 2-slot cards, you can fit in 3-slot cards. With a backplate included, you can do a maximum thickness of 58mm. As well as that, there are cards that people are going to ask about. So let's just show you what the maximum limitation is. This is a 3080 Ti Founders. This fits in almost anything. I'll show you something a little bit smaller so you can get a bit of an idea of the scale. This is a 4070 Super Founders. This is a tiny card. This is probably the card that I'll use in this build just because it looks so cool and I think it suits the aesthetic. This is the PNY 4070 Ti Super. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit at all. Even if you were to pull off this bracket and kind of fend-angle it in there, it just will not fit. The other thing with GPU support is if you wanted to be a supreme mad lad, you could just not put the back panel on and then your GPU could be like 85 slots wide. See what I mean? Like, it's completely open. Like your mum, she's open for business, just like the back of this case. As I always say with cases like the Fractal Mood, it's best to do your research when it comes to GPU fitment because it isn't a standard size. It is something a little bit different to what we've seen before. So yeah, just do your research first and don't get mad at me because I didn't make the case. But I should make a case. There's a pre-installed PCIe Gen 4 riser cable, and it's nothing special. It's a PCIe Gen 4 riser cable, but it is nice that it's included because some other cases won't include this kind of stuff. But that's not like Fractal. They're not going to leave something out for the sake of saving money. They want you to have a good experience when you're building. As for case wiring, we've got the front panel connectors for your lights and your switches to turn your system on and to let you know that it's on. We've got a USB Type-C connector. There's also front panel audio and a USB 3.2 Type-A connector. We've got a headphone jack. It doesn't appear to be a combined microphone jack. There's USB Type-C. There's a power button with an integrated power light and 2 USB Type-A ports. All right, that's everything I think you need to know about the Fractal Mood for now, but we've got to do our usual thing. We've got to do a build, we've got to test the thermals, and then I'll let you guys know if this is worth your hard-earned money. Spoiler alert, I'm kind of digging it so far, but you know, the thermals will be the real test and it will give us the truest answer. Let's do a build. This is the bit you've been waiting to see, the thermals. What you're seeing on your screen right now is the thermals with the 7800X 3D are pretty average. Keep in mind, I only used a 240ml liquid cooler. I can't find any 280ml coolers on hand at the moment, so I didn't go with a bigger cooler. As well as that, the GPU thermals with the filter on and off aren't too different, but the CPU thermals are a little bit higher than anticipated. Now, I just wanted to add this as well. I flipped the fans over to make them intake and the thermals were even worse, which is really no surprise. What I think Fractal could have done here, and this is before I go into all of this, is they could have just made the sides mesh as well, just so there was a lot more air being pulled into the side of the system. But again, maybe they've done this for a reason. I'm not sure what the reason is, but yeah, maybe when they did testing, they didn't find too much of a delta in thermal performance. But what we're seeing here is it's enough of a difference for you to notice it in thermals, especially if you were to use a higher end CPU that gets a lot hotter. You may begin to run into some thermal issues, but at the same time, this isn't supposed to be a high performance case. You really need to understand who this case is marketed towards, and it's for people who want a beautiful piece of furniture. And before I spoil the rest of what I got to say about this case, it is a beautiful looking case in person. Come and give me a hug, guys. Ah, that feels so good, doesn't it? Nice and warm. That's how the Fractal Mood makes me feel, guys. Nice and warm, nice and homely. You see how that feels? Oh, it's so nice to hug you guys. It's been a while. Here's the thing with the Fractal Mood, and I think I got in my own head about this because of the way that we got presented this case at Computex this year. And it was really sitting on a TV unit trying to be this home theater PC. And yeah, maybe that's who they designed it for. And yeah, maybe it kind of looks like an Xbox Series X, but is that really who a case like this is designed for? For me personally, when I look at the Fractal Mood in that setting, like this is why I'm saying this, because I'm completely in my head about it. Oh, you know, this is gonna be near the TV, right? Nice one. I have nowhere to put this next to my TV. It doesn't suit my TV unit. But that's okay, because if you are thinking of this case purely as a utility or a tool for work, this could sit on anyone's desk and you would forget that it's there. And I think that's the whole point of the Fractal Mood. Yeah, they're trying to market it as a little bit of a replacement to the Fractal Ridge, which is their flagship home theater PC case. Yeah, it can do it, but should it do it? That's the question you should be asking yourself. The Fractal Mood is actually a much better desktop PC case than a lot of other PC cases on the market. Let me explain. First of all, the footprint. The case has a small footprint, but it's as tall as a normal case. That's not a problem. Second of all, when it sits on your desk, it looks like it should be there, right? And that's a lot of the way that I see PC cases for myself. Let me explain. My two main PCs that I use for daily work and everything sit in a rack. I don't look at it. I press the button. I turn it on. It does the thing. That's the point of the Fractal Mood. Press the button, turn it on, do the thing. And you can do the thing for 149 US dollars. So yeah. Less is more, I suppose. You see the name? It's right there in the name. It's a mood, it's a vibe. It fits in with anything. You could have this in a brutalist, concrete, very macho bravado setup in this color and it would look sick. You could have the light case in a very pink and airy setup and it would look great. You could have this anywhere and it's going to look great. Even if it does look a little bit like an air purifier, it still looks great. And that's the point. It's a mood, it's a vibe. Love it, hate it. Like I said at the start, I don't know if I love it, but I sure as heck don't hate it. That's the point of the Fractal Mood. It's to put you in a good mood so you don't have to think about your computer all the time. And I think this is probably moving in the correct direction. But is it the case you're excited about from Fractal? Well, it's okay, but the Fractal Era 2, that's something I'm excited about. Let us know what you think about this and the upcoming Fractal Era 2. And if you like the music you heard here, I make all the music. It's available by clicking that join button right down there, down below in the description. If you haven't subscribed yet, just do that. I don't know why you wouldn't be subscribed. Maybe you don't like me. That's fine. If you don't like me, just subscribe anyway, or don't. I can't tell you what to do. I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers. You peek, we seek, and this is the Fractal Mood. I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. And not hating something is just as good as loving it, I guess. Thanks for watching.